Hey there, Bob from Oregon's Constant Gardener. Welcome to the OCG Fam Show. It's Viewer Questions episode number 6. Lucky number 6.
Why is it? We've done more than 6, haven't we?
We started numbering those separately because the other ones were OCG Fam shows. So
what's this one called?
It's number 6. So there's the Viewer Questions episodes that aren't. They are so like there's OCG Fam 7, 701, 702, but instead of making a Viewer Questions episode 703. It's Viewer Questions episode number 6. Plus, I just wanted to get a rise out of you with that, so that's why I said it.
Well, it gave us some filler for the show, so that's good.
that right there is what'll get us to an hour and 6 minutes. That's where we need to be.
It could very well be. Let's discuss the how you came up with this concept, there, Bob.
We could do that, or we can save the time at the end to make fun of your neighbors.
Love thy neighbor, my friend. Love thy neighbor.
Ishmael Sanchez. Ishmael? I don't. Hey guys, I'm on my first Nectar grow. I used one shot in the Greek regimen along with your number 4 soil. I noticed pretty dark green foliage and I'm assuming I have high nitrogen. I am following the dosage recommendations and doing feed, tea, feed, flush. How can I safely bring down the N in my Nectar grow? Said one person ever.
Yeah, don't buy the soy. Well, he says it's a number 4, so I'm not sure where the nitrogen's coming
from. That's
what
everyone's always like, how do I get more nitrogen into this thing, aren't they? I mean, it seems like this guy's actually got his shit together, it feels like to me. But I mean, can you have too much nitrogen? I mean, isn't dark green a good thing? And how do you judge that, I guess, is what I'd want to ask from this.
Well, I mean, depends how dark the green is, but I mean, a lot of times it could be an iron additive that's giving you that color green. Some worm castings have a lot of nitrogen or proteins in there that can keep things green. To reduce nitrogen, I mean, nitrogen is the easiest and most soluble thing in all of NPK, so really just water to get rid of nitrogen. And most people water their nitrogen right out of their potting soil just from overwatering, so I mean, really just a couple of herc flushes would get your nitrogen down just because it's so soluble. And I'm just trying to figure out where the N would be coming from in pot. I mean, we put some feather meal in there, but not enough to stay green for more than a couple weeks. So
if this is the full recipe and he's not using any other additives, he's either not having a problem or we don't know why he's having a problem because I
think I'd want to see what the pictures look like, what the slurry numbers look like. Because I mean, if his slurries are coming back with 550, 600 parts per million, then yeah, there's a food source there that they're accessing, and maybe the Athenas, the protein in Athena, or the calcium in Demeter is allowing the chelation of more nitrogen proteins in the soil. I think I just want to see a picture first to kind of dictate what's going on there.
So unless the missus is sneaking in some blood meal when he's not looking, it's probably not too much nitrogen, right?
Yeah. And if he is, and it's that time of month, then don't tell me about powder because I've already gone down that road, and it was a different outcome.
I baited you.
Huh?
I baited you. I'm sorry.
You did. You heard the story.
Smokezilla. I bet this one's a real smoke show.
Everybody knows mid-flowering menstrual cycle discharge does not make for a good bloom food.
Now let me ask you about this food. Piss.
7-to-1 with water gives you a really great nitrogen protein with a ton of vitamins.
Because that's what they used to do back in the day out in the Humboldt woods there, right?
Wow. We can go as far back as Indians, I would imagine.
Oh, I got you.
Okay. 7-to-1. Down to Earth, the owner of Down to Earth once said, your urine, if you're a healthy human being, which most of you are not, so don't do this, but if you were, your urine at 7-to-1 with water will give you all the nitrogen and vitamins that are amazing for plants. But most of us, I mean, if you're drinking Monster energy drinks, do not do the urine test. If you're a raging alcoholic, your urine is no longer nitrogen. It has a proof to it. If your urine has a proof, you should not be feeding your plants.
Your produce, like you, will be a mediocre product.
Yeah. So, but yeah, urine does work. I mean, it's a natural way to grow things.
Okay, new grower here. What is the difference between SLF 100 and Microbly Photo Plus? Should I? He says photosynthesis. I just said photo plus. Should I use both, or is one fine? What do you think there? Because I mean, we said both, but would you, if you had to, couldn't SLF get the job done realistically?
I mean, the diversity of bacillus in SLF is pretty amazing, but it doesn't have the diversity of all the different NPK fixing microbes that Photo Plus has. So to me, it's the diversity that makes those two things so amazing.
Okay.
I think you can use your more diverse nitrogen and phosphorus fixing microbes from Photo Plus. You can use that less frequently and still get the benefits, where SLF, I think the more you use it, the more benefits you get, because you're cleaning salts, you're digesting calcium, you're making phosphorus available, you're keeping the root system clean and flowing, where Photo Plus is just going in there and eating everything, and it's like liquid compost. So if I had to choose one, I mean, that's a tough one. SLF has so many benefits.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I do both, but if you had a budget, I would say use the Microbe Life on T days and SLF during feed days, and that would give you all the diversity you need.
So get a half a bottle of each. Get half as much as you need and use both over using one over the other. Because would you say that SLF is kind of a utility?
Yeah, I would overuse SLF over Photo Plus.
Okay. But you use the SLF as...
What happened to you?
I can see me still. Can you? I can see you. Can you see me? Am I there? That's hilarious. I've never had that happen on a live stream where someone did that. That's a great joke. SLF.
Yeah, it's weird. It says weak, poor connection.
Oh, I don't know. You know, Mom's probably in there watching her shows. My mother-in-law lives with me, and she's not super mobile, so you know what she watches? The Bachelor Island. Is it The Bachelor Island? It's something else.
So you're kind of bummed right now that you're not in there right next to her watching The Bachelor and like literally putting bets on if Philip is going to make it or Sarah.
Do you really know their names, or did you just make those two names up?
I don't really watch TV, so I'm not sure.
Oh, jeez. So,
is there a Philip and a Sarah on there?
There's probably a Chad.
Well, for sure, Chad and a Jennifer. There's no question there. But, I mean, I thought Philip was kind of out there. Isn't he kind of a nerdier style, like a more knowledge-based guy?
So the photosynthesis is more of a utility, and the SLF 100 more of a utility, and the Photo Plus more of a classic microbial, like all the other microbials we see out there. It's just kind of our go-to for many reasons.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't think people give the Microbe Life products enough credit in the world of, you don't need, I mean, even they'll tell you to apply it all the time, but really, it's as long as you're not killing the stuff you're putting in, you don't really need to reapply it all the time.
Well, I think, too, they're a very large company and get kind of a hit for that they're not down home, but they're really pretty natural about how they do it.
I had a 2-hour conversation with the Sun yesterday out in New York for, I mean, just troubleshooting the industry and talking about how we can work together, and that's what I love about them. They're a huge company, formed in 1976 with his grandpa and uncle, and now it's gone to his parents, and then now him, Brett's in the taking the reins right now, and just to hear where that family came from and what they've done, and I mean their whole world has been garden and pond, and then their son kind of came to age and brought it over to the hydroponic side, and it's brilliant what they have. They manufacture all their own microbes, they're culturing their own things, and they're making a huge difference in the world at different, I mean, I'm a poisoner of the planet compared to people like them who are literally like going out to water systems in Vietnam and just adding their bacteria to clean out waterways so they're not dumping sewage into the ocean. They're pretty impressive people. I'm baffled by what they're and they're still down enough to like have a chat with the beard. They're
appreciative for everything and whoever they talk to. You know, just they're solid guys. I mean, I don't think that comes across in their marketing so much, just because they're just kind of low key. They don't try to throw it out there. They just do what they do, and maybe people don't know, if they don't know them well enough, that they got a serious operation there. It's good for everybody.
They're no joke.
Yeah. Okay. ISLab 10. can you use SLF 100 in soil, or is it just for hydro setups? So it's awesome for hydro is why people think this, right? I mean, it's like the dude of having a hydro setup, but it's really more for soil. I mean, originally it's kind of coincidental that it worked with hydro, isn't it?
Well, it's convenient that it works for everything for Newton's sake, because his market is everybody. But originally it was designed to, from what I understand, it was originally built and designed to consume the fatty acids of the oil industry in the oil sands of Texas.
Yeah, so
they're remediating soils and cleaning up soils and breaking down the petroleum byproducts. So, I mean, and then in turn, it also takes care of salts, and it also takes care of minerals, and it takes care of calcium, and and then lo and behold, it also works as a probiotic and creates bioflora in your stomach. I mean, it's literally it's a catch-all. I mean, it's a pretty dang unique product, and it's but use it in soil just as much as you would in hydro. In hydro, it's nice because it's conveniently keeping your roots clean of salts and keeps those roots nice and clean without killing any type of beneficial bacteria in your system. But in soil, you're just adding life to the soil, and it just makes that living soil more impressive.
It's like nature in a bottle of, like, when you have a giant ecosystem, the microbial good generally outdoes the microbial bad and makes things work on their own. And it's kind of that.
It's all populations at that point. If you have 1 million beneficials and 1 non-beneficial, those millions are going to just gang up and take care of it. And so with SLF, it's that same concept as kill them with volume. And there's so many. And the nice thing about it is they're always cycling internally. So at any one given time, the bacteria that's present today won't be the same levels as they will be in a week from now. But the great thing is that diversity exchange of this week it's this guy, this week it's this guy, they keep them balanced in the soil at the same time. Anytime any of these guys overpopulate, something else comes up from underneath and takes them all out, and it evens out that population.
So, yes.
And that's why I like doing like Photoplus and Nourish, all the other different products, is now you're keeping these balances internally with the diversity of all these things. Versus if I only use this, then you might end up building just one type of, if all you did was azos, all you would have is nitrogen fixing, and eventually you'd have so many azos that even if you put in any other type of bacteria or fungi, they're going to beat them down with the azos. So it's best to do diversity and let nature sort it out. And the best part about nature sorting it out is they eat each other. They're all very mild forms of nutrients for the plant. So, as things are absorbing things, they're gaining a ratio of nutritional elements. And if a microbe wants to eat nitrogen, so it's consuming everything that's bonded to nitrogen, it's keeping the nitrogen for itself, but pooping out the phosphorus, the potassium, the magnesium, whatever the element is that the microbe isn't consuming. It just breaks those bonds and makes that available.
Okay. So, you can.
The soil, bueno.
Greg Lowe, my ppm is 50 and my pH is about 5.5 to 5.6. Would getting a calcite charger bump that up closer to the numbers that are better, I guess?
I love how he spelled that out.
With no punctuation, I was able to read it perfectly.
Dang good. You're in the perfect, I need calcite chargers, or I need to build my soils before I plant in them with a ton of calcium carbonate, because that 5.5, 5.6, he's at that. I mean, he would dissolve calcite on contact with that pH. It would make it available.
How are his ppm still so low, though?
Well, this is his water source.
Oh, his water source. Okay,
that's what I'm taking.
No, you're right. I read it wrong.
50 and if his nutrients are 50 and 5.5, it's like you should feed it and pH correct your food. But
so if you ran this through a you're totally right. I was wrong on that. If you ran this through the calcite charger, are you good to go right then, or would you be mitigating in your soil and stuff, like doing anything to try to work on this at that end, or just fix the water?
I'd keep my eyes on my slurry test, because what's going to happen is that this 5.5, 5.6, even if you build it back to 6.3 with calcite, you still want to make sure that 6.3 isn't dissolving the limestone in your potting soil to make that go away mid-bloom. So definitely in bloom, keep your slurries checked at least once every 10 days so you don't get behind the low pH. But if you put a calcite charge in, really his, like 2 calcite charges would get him to like 125, 130 parts per million of alkalinity, and his pH would probably go back to about 6.4. And then he should be totally fine and wouldn't even have to worry about low pH later on down the road.
So this is kind of gets to the heart of that alkalinity thing that we've been talking about, that not only is it bad right now because it's too low to eat, but also it's going to strip everything out of your soil, and you're going to have another problem shortly down the road when your plant really starts trying to eat in bloom.
Oh, yeah. Well, the downfall is a lot of times when your pH gets that low, your plant just stops eating, so your ppms actually start to rise. Once your ppms start rising and then you get your pH under control, then you see like tip burns immediately because you've just released 750 parts per million with a perfect alkalinity of 125 parts per million alkalinity at a pH of 6.4. All of a sudden, every gateway opens up and all the nutrition pours in.
So if I'm a few weeks in when I've realized I have this problem, before I calcite charged or did anything like that, would I maybe do a flush to try and get some ppm out of my soil?
If you're that high, I would.
Because you don't want it
750 in your parts per million. 750 parts per million. Your pH is 5.9. I would first do that flush to reduce the ppms, and then start building back that alkalinity in the pH.
When I do that flush, am I going to bring my soil pH down even lower?
Well, no. Ideally, you'd be doing that flush with like a 7.0 pH.
So
something to also buffer it. But the main goal is to reduce ppms without making it more acidic. So just raise your pH, flush everything out with the Herc, and really, if you do a higher pH flush, the calcium in Olympus up is the same concept as Herculean calcium, where it's going to help tie up the excess ppms and flush them out.
So when I'm doing my feedings and I'm trying to gradually bring my pH up, I might do a little higher pH, like get into the 6.8, somewhere like there with my feeding. But when I'm doing a flush, not a feeding, I can go higher on my pH. Could I go even higher than 7, or would you say 7 is the red line?
There's just not. If you want to go higher, I do recommend doing that carbonated water fix, where you do the 8, bring it down to 6.5 with carbonated water. Now you have bicarbonate alkalinity built in, which is going to immediately feed the plant or fix that issue, and then meanwhile it's going to start aiding at building that pH back up in the soil without giving it a food source that's so pH corrected high that your plant can't absorb. At 7, if you're feeding everything at 7.5 to fix a low pH issue, a high ppm low pH issue, you've gone the opposite direction of availability. So down here it's way too low, and now you're going to try to fix it with 7.5. That's way too high. You're really just shooting all around the target, and the bullseye is right in the middle. You got to aim for that.
Because it's not.
So even when you're correcting, you want to still do corrective flushing within the realm of consumable calcium. So 6.4, 6.7 can be your correctional flush. But if you go way too much higher than that, the pH just makes it so the plant food isn't available anymore.
So when we're adjusting these pHs, doing this stuff, the plant is doing the work, not the soil, right? We have to get it where the plant can work to get this done, or are we just doing a reaction to the soil?
We have to fix the soil so the plant can work. Yes.
I gotcha.
Basically, it's like pressure in a sense. If you have a ton of pressure, everything's closed, and if you loosen it up, everything opens up. And if it gets too loose, it's just diarrhea. So you got to kind of keep it in that nice medium.
Okay. Now, you probably don't think this is a good question, and it may not be a good question, but it's a good video, because I don't think we have this all in one place. How do I properly slurry test, and what would I be recording and learning from them? So, not how to do it, how we do it to give a slurry test that everyone else can know you've done it in this method. Because there's lots of ways to do a slurry test, I suppose, but the way we do it is so that we all are on the same page when we're talking about those results. What is that process?
Well, our process is a 1-to-1. So it's, 2 ounces of soil, 2 ounces of the water you use to water. I think most people make the big mistake of going, here's my 2 ounces of soil, and I'm going to go get this distilled water to make sure my reading's correct. It's like, if you don't use distilled water, please don't use that in a slurry because it's not what's going into your soil to feed your plants. We got to know what is happening when your plant is being saturated by the hydration that you give it. So we do 1-to-1. I know Blue Lab says 2-to-1. They also have a probe that takes 24 hours to read the same thing. So if you're talking to Nectar family and Nectar people, we understand 1-to-1 and we understand how to fix the results of a 1-to-1 ratio.
With the water you're using.
Yeah, with the water you use. And don't pH correct it. I mean, if you use pH corrected water every time, then use that as your slurry. If you just water your plants out of the faucet, that's the slurry I need. Because that's what's happening and that's the reaction that's occurring in the soil. So 1-to-1, equal parts.
Okay. And can you use a half an ounce, 4 ounces, 8 ounces, 16 ounces? I mean, what is there?
Basically, you need enough to where your meters can be completely submerged to read it. And a lot of guys will do the saturation and then squeeze out the water into a little shot glass and read it that way.
Okay.
Either way, you're stuck. The only reason why I don't like the squeezing is because a lot of times I feel like I'm, it's like when you squeeze a lemon peel, you can get more juice out of it. It's bitter as heck. But if you just squeeze the lemon, then you get the sweet part of the lemon.
And you get it's a standard. It's not.
Yeah.
Because that's really what we're looking for here is a reading that we can all share and know that this is, so we can have a standard to it.
And our standard's literally a snapshot. Most of us are under the understanding that this is today's snapshot. If you took it from even the opposite side of the pot, it might be off by a point. It might be 50 parts per million different. I mean, there's so many variables on that. But getting the gist with the same numbers of 1-to-1, 2 to 3 inches below the soil surface, because that's where we want to see what's happening in the root zone. Don't pull it off the bottom. Don't do the leaches. 1-to-1 off the top 2 to 3 inches, and that gives us what we as a collective group have come together with and said, here, when we see these numbers, these are the actions we would like you to take to make the corrections that happen, and it's just our standard.
Okay.
So, and different methods for different companies and different meters, but honestly, that has worked great for us for 20 years, and in the agriculture for about 8 years before that, that's how we tested fields, and we do pretty good at our recommendations post those slurries.
Okay. What are we recording?
Well, recording, I mean, like everything else, it gives us a history. It gives us a pattern. It gives us, if you see over the last 4 grows, you get in the second week of bloom and you went from 6.3 to 5.9, 6 grows in a row, then we know that there's an issue in that transition time that we need to fix or prevent. So after 6 times, knowing that, all right, weeks 5 and 6 in flower, I'm at 6.5. Everything's perfect. Week 1 of flower, I'm 6.2. Week 2 of flower, now I'm at 6. Week 3, I'm at 5.9. And this has happened for 6 grows. So before I go into flip them, I'm going to go ahead and front load them with some limestone. I know I've got an issue with my water. Something's occurring which is stripping the pH, or the opposite, it goes up. Or it gives us times to start really figuring out what goes on in our grows, with our environments, with our tools. And it gives us the ability to, look into the future and prevent issues from happening in the next run. So the more documentation you have, the more you're going to learn just from watching your patterns. And if you see this, either your pen's screwed up, your meter's screwed up, you forgot how to take slurries, or there's something horribly wrong with your water that you need to get figured out.
Would you say that the ppms are necessary, important, the parts per million, as well as the pH? Or can you get by with just the pH?
I mean, if you're trying to dial stuff in, the combo's the key. If I had to choose one, pH is, I mean, without proper pH, they're not eating. So it doesn't matter if you're feeding them 8,200 parts per million or 10. If it's at 7.9, they're not going to eat any of it, so it doesn't matter. So I think pH to us is more important than ppms by all means. That's why we don't have a ppm scale on our feeding schedule.
Yeah.
A lot of nutrient companies are like, feed at 1,700 parts per million. It's like, well, that's pretty random. I mean, what if my plant's this tall and I was at 1,700 parts per million? It's dead. So that's not my favorite way of growing. pH, though, is always going to be critical in any time of a plant's life. So understanding what's happening with the pH is going to help you make those plants bigger, better, and more yield.
So this maybe is a lot like your pulse and your blood pressure, where I take your pulse to see if you're alive, and if you have a 160 pulse, something's going on here. I'm trying to work with that. But knowing your blood pressure would sure be helpful to me long term and to really make sense.
And understanding what blood pressure is.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't know what does the 85/120 mean, then you're really going nowhere. So it's, every time they take my blood pressure in the hospital, like, blah, 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 give me my numbers. I'm like, wow.
Okay.
I mean, I go to the doctor this many times today.
Is that good? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, is that like, are you judging me right now?
Oh, jeez. All right. And then, then we answered that one. Greg Lowe, plan on foliar feeding this year. What are the best nectars for foliar feeding? And he's got an LOL in there. I guess that means lots of love. I don't know. So, what?
No, I think Nectars. He spelled Nectars.
Oh, I got you. Nectars, LOL. Oh, he's making fun of the spelling. I get it. Okay. I'm just thinking of a funny story that's too long to tell. So, if you're you foliar feed like that's part of your game. I mean, that is part of your game, right? I mean.
Yeah, I mean, they love it.
Yeah.
They have bigger mouths in their leaves than they do on their feet.
Okay, that's a good now.
Yeah,
that one down.
So for foliar feeding, I don't know. It really boils down to the time frame, what's going on, what they look like. I always like feeding them kelp because it's got tons of vitamins, growth hormones, very natural, mild potassium load. I love Pegasus because it's that nitrogen protein in veg. Foliar feeding them Athenas gives them the amino acids right in the foliage, so as they're developing new cells, they already have the amino acid blocks there to build the structure. So, I mean, I know the Nectar Bible and the Nectar groups has a handful of really good, helpful foliar feeding tips and recipes that they've come up with the line that they use. I personally stick with, Chaos all by itself, and then like Poseidon and Athena and Pegasus as my go-tos for like healthy veg growth and making things happy. Okay,
I have a few questions. So there are times when you'll do, and we can get into this another time, but there are times reactively when you'll foliar feed to try to fix something or to diagnose something. But all things being equal, you're having a normal grow, everything's good. What would be your foliar feed, and how late into bloom would you do it? Would just until you see some flower? Are you going all the way to that to where you can't foliar feed anymore, or are you going to pull back or change at some point?
I personally don't foliar feed after I see the flower set.
Sure.
So I mean, I see that it's female, it stacks on a couple more pistils, then that is over for me. I'm done. And only because I've battled mold, I've battled mildew, I've played the game of foliar feeding too late. Frank will foliar feed all the way up until like the day of harvest. Not recommended. Frank also doesn't grow weed for a living, so he's testing some plants to see what he can do to them.
He only grows tomatoes and that one Feed Me Seymour thing out there from what I've seen.
To put on his deck. And he's like, well, I'm still foliar feeding them in the dark bathroom in November. I'm like, you're foliar feeding them in the dark in your bathroom, and then you're going to give them to one of the employees for them to process? Yeah, you know what? Just throw that plant away. That's unusable. So, bless his heart. He's not, it's not his game, but he knows how to grow healthy plants.
Frank's one of those guys where you think he's an idiot until the planet's burning up and you see him flying off in a spaceship.
Yeah, waving at you or something. It's about Dogecoin.
Good luck, guys. Thanks a lot. See ya. Thanks for all the fish.
I mean, for foliar feeding, it really is. It comes down to, in that bloom cycle, once I see fruiting, I just stop. And everything that I need to do correctively needs to be done in the root zone or during flushing or whatever.
Okay.
During veg, it just comes down to genetics are such a huge part of this play, where if they're just leggy plants, I like foliar feeding to help reduce the legs and kind of keep them to be more squatty plants. If I need them to be more leggy plants, I learned how to water that in to make that accelerate the growth up towards the light a little bit faster. So really, foliar feeding is one of those that can be done 3 times a day. It can be done 3 times a week. I mean, you're never going to really be harming the plant by giving it food through or nutrition through the leaves.
Yeah.
The one thing we do tell people, obviously, is calcium is not our friend through the foliage. It will go in, but it's not efficient. So everything else through the foliage is very efficient. Calcium's most efficient in the root zone, so balancing those two work. I had one more point to that, and I cannot even think of it.
Well, I have a couple questions. So we foliar feed all the way till you stop because of practical matter of not wanting to get the flowers wet. But do you change up that foliar based on the plant switching over at any point, or is it the same foliar all the way through?
Well, it's roughly the same. I may make it more or less concentrated and more or less, nitrogen-based. So very young plants, obviously, you're not going to give them 2 teaspoons of Pegasus as a seedling because they're just too small. But if they're this big, I can be at 2 teaspoons a quart and foliar feeding them for aggressive feeding. So it's very similar stuff from the beginning to when I'm going to stop foliar feeding. And then Chaos being its own beast.
So more and more concentrated as you go deeper into the process.
Yeah, and as the plants become hardier, bigger, stronger, hungrier, it's the same thing. They eat like that on the top. As long as you're not hitting them with 1,400 parts per million in the foliage, they'll eat it the same way you ramp up your food in your root zone.
Can you overdo the bloom chaos, and how often would you do that, and how often, what are your parameters there?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. Quarter strength every other day until you learn how to do it full strength every day.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's just, chaos is, if I had 12 plants in the room from 12 different breeders and 12 different things, I can't foliar feed all of them chaos the same way because they're all going to, it's like throwing 12 3-year-olds into a pool and see how many make it to the edge.
That would be a good show.
For a while until you go to prison.
Oh, no. We're going to have we're going to have divers. We're going to have rescue divers.
Sure.
So when they...
life jackets.
So, how do I fit in that Bloom Chaos foliar feeding with my other foliar feed?
Well, the nice thing about regular foliar feeding, you can do it daily. No problem.
Okay.
Chaos, you can do it daily if you've conditioned them and they're working to it and they want it. So if you're just introducing chaos, let's say you do it every other day or every third day, well, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can foliar feed Poseidon and Athena. Monday and Thursday, you're going to do chaos. So you do chaos, go through in the morning, spray everybody with chaos, come back a half hour later when the leaves are dry, and foliar feed them the rest of the stuff you want to do.
Okay.
If you don't, just wait for them to dry up because then you know they've absorbed it, they've evaporated it, and then you can react it with another food.
What exactly would be your base foliar recipe, product names, and how much of each one in 32 ounces of water?
For what?
So I got a sprayer of water. I'm going to mix up my things in there. Your basic go-to foliar. Which actual products would it be, and how much would you put in there?
5 mils of Athena, 1 teaspoon of Athena per quart.
Okay.
5 mils of Poseidon or liquid kelp per quart. Maybe a half a teaspoon, 2.5 mils of Zeus.
Okay.
That would be one really good foliar feed.
Okay.
If I feel like they need more nitrogen, they're not greening the way I want, in a bottle I'd use 5 mils of Pegasus per quart, 5 mils of Athenas per quart, maybe a couple drops of Zeus just for penetration. That would be my fixing an issue with nitrogen being too low. The other one would be just a general purpose blanket food, if you will. If you wanted to add a little Medusa, 1 to 2 mils of Medusa in that quart of the Athena and the Poseidon would just give you more of a broad spectrum food. But those are my go-tos: is Athena, Pegasus, Poseidon, and Chaos.
The Chaos separately from the others.
Separately, in its own bottle. And
better safe than sorry with that quarter strength until you start to see a pattern, and go slow all the way through if you don't figure out what you're doing.
Yeah, and really, that's what it boils down to. Is you can always add stuff, but once you give it, you can't take it back. So if you just want to go full throttle and don't think you're going to hit a wall because the motorcycle left your arms and smashed into a tree, go ahead, floor it, see what happens. But it never works out. So giving it the gas and giving it going until you get everything going well, and then you start ramping things up and then pushing the plants at that point. But don't push them out of the gate because it doesn't work.
Yeah. So in a normal circumstance, would I do any pHing of this mixture? And what if I had some weird high or weird low pH water?
Well, foliar feeding, you definitely want to be acidic in the sense of 7.0 or less. So 7.0 is neutral. Anything above that is high pH or alkaline, and anything below that would be acidic. So ideally, a pH range of the 6.1 to 6.4 is ideal for foliar feeding. Anything from 5.7 to 6.4 is acceptable because it's still penetrating the actual foliage to make that absorption rate happen. If you have naturally high pH water, then it'd be recommended to actually have some carbonated water.
Okay.
Because the carbonated water will drop that high pH down into the mid-6s. The rest of the food's going to keep that pH down because you're not adding Olympus up to it, so you're never really bringing it back up. If you have to bring it up, you want to really be careful. I would try bringing it up with Zeus first because it's a humic acid, not an Olympus up, which is limestone, pure calcium. So the plants aren't going to really utilize that calcium from it, but you can pH correct with it.
So the recipe...
You're fine.
The recipe you're talking about would generally bring down pH a little more so than bring it up.
Yeah. And try to be in the 6 to 6.4 range for foliar feeding.
And overdoing the Zeus can be a problem? Because of the
on your pocketbook, I mean, it's expensive.
But the pH, it's not going to radically change the pH even.
No, it brings it up. If anything, Zeus is the only thing that has like a 9 pH in the bottle.
Yeah,
so everything else is like below 5. That one's 9. So generally, it'll take you up a little bit, but not enough. Not like pH up.
It's not the same. It'll trending that way, but it's not made to do that. It will not just bring it up.
If you added a tablespoon to a quart, you wouldn't go from 5 to 7 like Olympus up.
You'll go up a little no matter how much you do.
Yeah, you go 5 to 5.4 maybe, but
okay.
And it would just be a waste of Zeus at that point.
Sure.
And then just to sideline that question real quick, since we just talked that, there's another guy who he wrote me this.
We're talking about the foliar feeding chart, or lack thereof.
Just the fact that I was talking about Zeus.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
This guy writes, what happened to all these? You'll like this one.
Yeah.
Maybe. That's stupid. Maybe I deleted it.
But it was about Zeus? Or about...
Yeah, he said this would make a good question for the show.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll save it. I didn't put it on yours, did I? Didn't I send you a new email that had some new questions on it?
I thought that was last time, but let me look here.
Oh, here you go. James Hilton.
Okay.
Silly question. Maybe a good one for a viewer episode. Any good products or chemistry you know of that will get Zeus juice stains out of clothes or off of concrete floors? I'm trying OxyClean as you read this. Then he turned on some Friends of Nectar. Thanks, James, for turning them on to Nectar. And no, Zeus is literally the stage before oil. I mean, it is. I have so. Why do you think we're all black?
There's stains all over the shirt. You just can't see it.
Yeah, this is when we make Zeus. Now, Zeus is an amazing product. BioEgg knows what they're doing when it comes to humans and solvents, but that stuff, I mean, it'll ruin your skin. I mean, you have to go through an entire skin cycle.
Oh yeah, it's like
your hands are.
They should do tattoos with it.
Oh, for sure. I'm pretty sure it's the original henna. I mean, there's no question. This stuff ruins everything. Now, the worst is when you have a 2.5 and you forgot to seal down the lid real tight and you go, woof, and it just, boom. I'm pretty sure when I go to sell my house, I'm going to have to explain that I never brought a car through this little tiny man door. That's actually just humic acid stains over the corner. But it looks like my Buick exploded in there. So I thought that was a fun question.
There's
nothing you can do. OxyClean's not going to
get it. So this isn't
If
real.
you figured it out, let me know. I mean, we could probably
We sell
start
that.
doing, like the bleach and baking soda concept to see if
It
you
should have a little bottle that comes on the side of it in case of emergency to clean.
Smash and run, because this is going to create a chemistry cloud that could kill a family of 9.
So not entirely related, but I was over at my neighbor's the other day, and he says, "Come here and look at this," because we were just over there, having a beer. He's got this stain on his driveway, and he's like, "See that plant over there? See the weeds around it? I had my burner thing, and I was burning those weeds, and I caught the leg of my pants on fire." He says, "That stain? That's my pants." He got whoop, his pants go off. He had to take his pants off in the middle of his driveway.
Was he wearing track pants?
I don't know. But maybe there's some chemicals involved. Maybe he's, a little... Oh, we lost Scott in the middle of my good story. Hold on a second here. I don't know if it was a good story. Oh, he's trying to call me while I'm trying to call him. Hold on a second. God damn it. He's calling me. I have to call him. And he... Try one more time here. All right. I have to call you.
Oh, it was me.
Well, when you call me, you got to do the horizontal thing. When you call me, it goes to my tablet. But to get into the computer so I can have it on the TV, I have to call you. And so I'm like, I'll call him back to everyone, and then I'm like, God damn it. And I'd hang up on you, but you're super fast on the button, you'd be right back at me. Anyway, yeah, he pulled his pants out in the middle of his driveway and had to run into his house, and when he came back, no pants, just a stain. So yeah, it must have been one of those, Russian track suits, the red with the white stripes.
Especially the Russian ones.
Pay that man his money.
Those are designed to just consume people. Oh, you're going to the club,
no. We have the track suits. We can get rid of all of them. Pay that man his money. All right. So, Alan Foliar.
You do not have a Foliar feed chart.
So, why not?
Well, it's
just...
Well, it's like putting a lot of liability on the company when you have these Foliar feed charts and then people go after it.
Use them.
I mean, huh?
Use them.
Yeah, they use them, and maybe not in the right times.
Yeah. Well,
and I don't like to be liable in the sense of, you heard it here, but I didn't tell you to do it. I mean, there's a lot of stories I've told you. That doesn't mean you should go try these things.
Yeah.
But now the Foliar feed chart, I mean, that one online in the Nectar group seems to be pretty decent. But, not everybody wants to Foliar feed, and if you put down a recommendation, then a lot of people think that they have to. Now it's burdensome to even play with the nutrient line if I have to Foliar feed. I mean, I got people right now whining about this. They're whining because we are concerned and trying to educate people about alkalinity, and they're like, wow, well, it's because your nutrients are lacking. Our whole nutrient line is based on alkalinity. All I'm trying to do is accelerate you so you understand the concept so you can troubleshoot your own grow and not worry about what's happening with the whole world, because we all grow differently. We all have different water, different environments. So if you start going, here's the Foliar feed recipe and here's a chart. Yeah, I can't imagine what those emails would start with. Hi, I followed your chart and I burned all my plants there. Then the 4th day of life, and I gave them a full Roman Foliar. It's like, okay, good luck here. I mean,
if we put out a chart, if you put out a chart, it's a little different than it being out there in the community, because there's context and there's community around that. That you can, the people would be like, oh, I did this at this time and this, and it didn't work with that. That you can't really get by you just saying something or writing it on a piece of paper. I mean, the feed chart, as much as you've worked on it, is very lacking, because you could make it a book and no one would read it, or you can make it one page and there's stuff missing. It's just how it is.
No, and I get that too. It's like, why don't you have this broken down like what I should feed every time week to week? And it's like, well, hold on. Let me call every breeder on the planet and find out exactly what their genetics do and exactly what they need to be fed, because that's like, it's just not. It's nothing you can actually put down and then rely upon. You know, this isn't your oil change schedule on your synthetic oil for your car. That's a pretty good schedule. You know that 10,000 miles. Get that thing done. So you go at 12,000.
Or never at all.
Or you say, it's synthetic and it's still full. We're good.
I'm not a great oil changer myself.
I'm not a fan. I think it's a scam.
I think when I go in, I'm like, you should change the oil too. When there's something breaks. So fix that, and you should change the oil.
Yeah, while you're in there, you should rotate the tires too.
Yeah, don't buy a car from me.
yeah, mechanic.
Do you have a maintenance schedule? Do you have all the maintenance records? Yes, I do. There aren't any. There are no records.
I crashed it once, I needed an oil change once, and I got new tires once.
All right. Zach Dixon. Hey, Bob and Scott, had a question for you. I grow a couple of plants at a time for personal use, sure, and have never worried about my final yield. I am much more interested in pure quality over quantity and was wondering what nutrients in your line, aside from the basic 4, would you recommend currently doing Spartan regimen with the addition of Triton's Trawl, Aphrodite's Extraction, and SLF 100. Any info would be greatly appreciated. Cheers. Before you start, would you go with doing some sort of microbial in addition to this before you would go into getting into more nutrients, or would you go into some more nutrients and just be with that SLF 100 for your microbial? Maybe not.
I think it's really what the end goal of the grower is intending to get out of it. So, I mean, I personally would add something. I mean, I don't know. That's why we have 17 parts of our nutrient line, is that it really depends, full picture what the goal is. And
would you fill out?
If you wanted to grow taller plants and veg so they had more sites for bloom, I'd say you should probably add maybe Demeters to the first 4 or Athenas. I mean, the 2 main things he doesn't have in there that I think should be part of our basic is the Demeters and Athenas, because it's the 2 major building blocks of every living cell on the planet is calcium and amino acids. Demeters and Athenas is literally a bang combo pack. So I think most people that just grab those 2 right out of the gate see a noticeable difference just from adding those 2.
Well, but I mean, if you're saying quality, you're talking maybe about density and about complexity of flavor. But if you're talking flavor, you may have different preferences than the guy down the street, and so it's hard to say which ones would be like those kinds of quality adding type things beyond what's in the Greek. I mean, would you fill out the Greek regimen and then experiment from there?
Possibly, I'd fill out Greek minus Kraken for this case, because I don't think the Kraken's bringing the quality terpene that he would be receiving from adding something, because if he's going for quality over quantity, adding Athenas and Demeters isn't about yield size or anything. It's about plant structure, plant health. The stronger and the healthier this plant is, the more naturally it can do its job to create its own terpenes, its own flower weight, its own oil production, all the things that come in balance with health. So those would be my first 2. He already has Tritons and Aphrodites, so to me, they're already focusing on the terpene profiles and how to enhance those. So, I mean, for more, in this case, a Megamorpheus might actually show him some new level of quality that he hadn't had before, as it just enhances the guanines in that terpene profile. So, I mean, it really comes down to what I would do is play with a couple bottles and document what you see, smell, taste, whatever, and then decide whether or not you wanted to add them in your regular feedings.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Is this a good idea? Would you maybe get your Greek game on point, minus the Kraken, get yourself down to where you really know you're growing a good structural plant, and then experiment with genetics for flavor?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think a lot of people don't. I mean, we get a lot. I've been playing with this for this long, this, that, and the other, and my yields are down. It's like, well, let me tell you one thing. Genetics are the key. Mm-hmm. Nutrients can help. They're very helpful at enhancing things and keeping things healthy and happy. Mm-hmm. Genetics and the genetics you grow are the key. I mean, they are the key. When you get things like, this guy's stuff, and he's literally, you look at his pictures online and it is just baffling, and you see the quality that can come from it, but then you see somebody else who's knocked off these genetics off a different pheno hunt, and they're night and day plants. I mean, Scooby Snack, for instance, in the Pacific Northwest, there's a bunch of people who grow it, there's a bunch of people who have the genetic, but there's only a few people who have the genetic that does what that stuff does, and it's very unique, and it's, I think, half the battle with these growers and the pheno hunters, the guys chasing the unicorn, if you will. That's the game, is trying to find the unicorn and then hold the unicorn and control the unicorn so you're producing the highest grade. The downfall is it's really hard to cross back to that genetic and keep it very stable, so when you throw 100 seeds, you get 100 of that genetic. You have the lineage of that genetic, but you don't necessarily have the phenotype of all that genetic. So genetics are a huge play, and when people complain to me on a lot of levels of, I still have this flavor profile, I was really hoping for the gas, and it's like, well, then you shouldn't grow blueberry, because blueberry is not going to give you the gas you want, but you want us to give you the gas. Trends is a great tool for that, but if you're genetically fruity by predisposition, it's not going to pull diesel out of a blueberry plant.
Sure. So, like, you might have the finest gin on earth and a middling bourbon and prefer the bourbon because you're not a gin guy. It's kind of that. It's like you have to find the thing that you're flavoring and then use your nutrients to bring that thing to its full expression. But its full expression has to be something you actually like when it's done. You're not going to change that.
There's some that, I've gotten, Pig Farmer's giving me some things where they just are offensive to the smell because people like this nasty, wet foot, garlic, butthole smell, and I'm just like,
not my thing.
I mean, bless your hearts, but you smell the danka, and
yes, I can, and I'm disgusted.
Yes. And I taste it, and I smoke it, and I feel like I'm exhaling ass, and it's just not my favorite. But
I feel like a butthole.
That's what they're absolutely going for, and I applaud them because they're finding these genetics and they're being able to enhance them. But like you said, it's not the same for all of us. I mean, how many people love black licorice, and how many people would punch you in the face for even breathing it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Cilantro. I mean, if everything smoked like cilantro, do you think we'd all be smoking weed? No, it'd get rid of like 80% of us. Like
done,
that.
And it's not like, oh, this is okay, or this is not my favorite. It's like, this is sickening, and that's delicious.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of people get seeds from an event, from a grower, from a friend, and they get them going, and they've tasted something that had the similar name, but in the end, it's not the same pheno. And that's the big key, is getting very consistent pheno hunting is very difficult. So, cut only, I guess. If you really want it, you like the guy. Or did she upload a new episode of The Bachelor Island? Is this the porn edition or what?
Bachelor Island, that's what it's called, I think.
Yeah,
that's what I said, right?
Pulled up another episode.
I guess so.
At least a half hour, because she just pulled up episode 6.
So I got it. I'll show you how bad I am with see this? I got one of Alon's things. I paid $500 for this 3 months ago. 3 months of service at $100 a month. All I have to do is go set it in the yard and run a cable in, and I got internet, and I haven't done it. Hold on a second, I don't have you on the big TV here. There you go. Yeah, anyway, so it's my fault. I'm going to hook that up today. Are you there? He's either very good at staying still or we have a bad connection. I was blown away with how still you were doing because I thought you were messing with me. Like, oh my God, he's
doing it again.
I know. All right. Gary,
you can go inside and take the remote control away from your mother-in-law.
I just got to hook this stupid satellite thing up. I've had it for 3 months. I've paid $800 and not used it.
What is it?
It's a Starlink from Elon Musk. You know.
Well, that's what I love is that the guys like you who don't need it, get it. Guys like me who live out in the middle of frickin' BFE that has a satellite dish for internet, they won't send me one.
Well, you got too many trees around your house. There's no way you'd get service.
It's a fucking satellite. They should be able to beam it straight down into your yard.
No, it's because they're... It's where the satellites are on it's easier to...
16,000 of them gridding our sky right now. It's like 65 a night go up.
Yeah, but
they can. Seen them?
Yes, but they can only put them so high in the sky. I don't know. He won't send you one. You can use mine. I don't care.
Oh no, it just makes me laugh that they're like, here, this is for all you people that can't get fast internet. You know, the people who live out in the country and all the people who have like high-speed DSL, they just hook into their computer. Here's this thing that makes your internet the same.
Well, you got to go and download the app and then hold it up.
I've done it. I've ordered mine. I've done everything. I work on Blue Elephant satellite system that's like 51K download speed.
Well, I guess you just didn't get in early or something. I don't know, because I got the thing.
He said it's not available in your area yet. And I'm like, well, that's funny because if I shoot my gun over that hill, that guy it lands on, he's in the area, but my gun doesn't shoot 885 fucking miles from here. It shoots like 300 yards from here. So the guy 300 yards from here can have satellite, but I can't. And why it's not in my area? You're a satellite! Where are you then? What area do I need to be on for you to see me? I'm here. Here's the globe. Here you are in a satellite. Just beam the stuff to me. So, I'm not impressed. I think it's a scam.
Gary Bramlett.
Obviously, you think it's a scam. It's in your garage in a box.
And I just like buying shit. I don't like actually. I've got a whole bunch of other stuff here too. I got to show you this. Well, I won't show you. It's in a box. I got this Hot Wheel track. You're gonna have to come over. It's 4 tracks, and it goes into 2, and they crash into each other. Then it goes into 1, and they crash, and then only one comes out. And I got 24 Hot Wheel cars. We're gonna have a big thing.
Who?
Me. And who will come over? But Derek will probably come over.
Oh, sure.
He comes over every Tuesday, and we go to the Buy Mart for Lucky Number Tuesday. We can do it then. Or you're welcome to come over. You're welcome. I invite you to my home. You never come.
I've come. I came the one time you invited me.
No, you didn't. When? All right. I invited you to several poker parties.
With Willie?
Well, yeah, you were dropping me off, weren't you? You didn't come on.
I don't think I was dropping you off.
You came in. Well, here? All right.
Yeah, your house.
What do you think?
You live over in the nice neighborhood.
Well, it's quiet. Yeah. You know, they cut my street off. They put up these barricades to close the street. It says
for COVID.
No, for bicycles. But I swear to God, this is what it says. It says no outside traffic. Open street project.
Sounds like you might be having a rally there soon.
Yeah. Got a question, Bob. I have hit a wall. I can't seem to get any more out of my... Is this the one I just asked you?
No, but I think we already answered it with the whole genetics question.
Well, I can't seem to get any more... Oh, it's the opposite question. He's looking for yield. Got a question, Bob. I've hit a wall. Can't seem to get any more out of my grows without bud size and density. Am I doing something wrong? I push Herc and it seems like I'm not getting everything out of Nectar that I know it has. Help. So, what's he saying? He gets quality but his buds go down? Is that a thing? His size goes down when he gets better quality?
Well, I think he just says I can't. I've been doing everything I can to get more yield, but I'm not getting it. My quality's there, my yield's not.
I understand. Okay, well that's kind of what I said, but not really. It's just
I think the big key there is like what's your lighting, what's your CO2, what's your feed schedule, what's your alkalinity, what's your pH, what's your slurries looking like, what's your feed rate look like, how often are you feeding? There's like a whole bunch of different questions I'd have, and I mean if I had all the specs that he's using Blurple LED lights that are red and blue only, and his doesn't use a pH meter, and he sizes up his nutrients by finger measuring, and we could probably change up some things, but lighting's huge, environment's huge, genetics. If you're on the same genetics forever and it just doesn't do well with Nectar, either change genetics or you can go find that nutrient line that was giving you the yield but not the quality. It's a tough answer. It's a tough question to answer without just lying to you.
Would you say get into the community, shut up and listen for a while and just take in what people...
And not even shut up, because not all these guys, a lot of these guys are very, very intelligent. They really understand what they understand their plants in their garden, but maybe new to Nectar have to figure out the dialing in piece. But going in, and even these communities are pretty strong in, hey, this is what I'm doing, here's all my specs. And a lot of other people will either say, hey, I'm very much in the same boat, here's what I did, or, hey, this is what we'd attempt to try, and bouncing it off of more community people. I would ask you all the questions like your lighting and your environment and your, who's the breeder, how long have you run these genetics, is this from the same mother, is this clonal? I mean, there's so many questions to get you an answer. I would immediately say, if it's the same genetics you've been working with for a long time, change your genetics and then go from there. Because a lot of people, a couple of my favorite farms, they grow one room that's just for, they're their mainstays as far as the quality and the fruit they want, and over here is what they sell. This is my production area, and this is what I like. And, there's a lot of genetics that we all love, but don't put on anything, so they're not marketable, but you really want it for your own jars. Sure. That's what this room's for. This room is all Blue Dream, so I can just crush the numbers and send it off to the world.
So you'd probably get right with your environment and your pH ppm and then be looking at your genetics. Then
dialing in my soil pH and my alkalinity with the right type of lighting can make all the difference in the world. But even then, if your genetics are only designed to do X, they're never going to give you Y. So checking your genetics too. And if they're really old genetics that you've run off the same mother, stuff wears out over time, so eventually legs just stop running and you end up with a slow jog.
Okay. There you go. Deadhead 80. Maybe one of your buddies. You may have sold this man a grilled cheese sandwich.
If he was in the 80s, no. He was a decade before me. I was a deadhead from 89 to 93.
Oh, well, he might have still been... Well, he's still alive, so maybe... He
he could have very well. He probably didn't. But
probably not. He says, the real question is, why is it so dang hard to get your question answered? Do I need a cooler handle?
That is pretty cool.
I know.
You asked a bunch of questions on your videos?
I don't know. I guess we missed it. The name doesn't ring a bell, but I mean, I go through and I try to get everyone, but there's just, we tried to have Chris answering questions in the comments, but it just doesn't feel like that was right. I think we just have to kind of pick and choose out here. So while we talk in the comments a little, mostly the comments are where you throw this stuff out there and communicate with yourselves, and then we get a question and speak on it here, and then we do the little side shows where I'll talk about it. You get the questions there, and we get some follow-up and that kind of thing. So if your question wasn't answered, it was maybe because we forgot it, but maybe because someone else had the same question and we used that one instead of yours. And so we try to answer everything. Is that fair?
Yeah, or if you got one you just think is going to nail it, feel free to email us too. I mean, emailing gives us a faster question.
Yeah.
Or it gives me a more direct way to answer those questions.
Well,
but
I don't believe I see every comment.
Certainly not because the handles are cooler than others.
No.
Sometimes we just answer the questions like, hey, this would make a really good point to the last video we did, or something like that.
There's a theme to them, like we'll have 4 or 5 questions that fit together, or there's not a lot of science to it. And I guess that's kind of the cool thing about the show from our point of view, and why we do it is because we just kind of
we don't do anything for it. Our preparation is, are you ready to start doing something? Okay, well, how about now? No, I gotta start. Hold on. Okay, let's start now. Our production, I think this cost us, nothing to produce, other than time.
Do you remember when Bart was on the Krusty show, and Krusty came in the summer to do his lines? And he's just in a Hawaiian shirt, he runs in there, he's like, who said that? Blah! What's the deal with that? Blah, 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 blah. See ya! And walks out. One take of all of them in the booth. He said, learn from a pro, kid, and walks off.
There you go. Maybe we should do that. Just answer them all beforehand.
Just go. Yes? No? No? What's wrong with you?
It says, I was able to pick up some Chimera samples. Any news on how to use? Did you get that question?
No, but I did 4 videos in a row about Chimera, and people said, shut the fuck up about Chimera.
I know. Well, the downfall is there's some stores now that are starting to get Chimera samples when they buy direct.
Well, do you want to speak to that?
In doing so, what we're...
Do you want to do this now, or you want to do it in the next one? But just let's do like we did with the slurry test.
No, it would just be something that check your pH in your soil. The best time to use Chimera is if you're going into bloom and your pH is starting to encroach on that 6.0 or lower, then you would want to add that in right then before you go into bloom, because it's going to build that pH back up immediately and then hold it there throughout the entire cycle. Yeah. If your pH is below 6 to begin with, 1 cup per 10 gallons. If your pH is above 6 to begin with, then I'd start with a half a cup per 10 gallons.
But
I mean, that would be the how to use,
I guess I was going to say, like, if you go to the doctor and he's like, you're low in vitamin D, you need some vitamin D, you take some vitamin D, but you don't just take vitamin D on the off chance that you may be vitamin D deficient. And this is kind of that, right? I mean, you need to figure out if you need it to some extent. That's how you use it, is by figuring out if you need to use it. Is that...
Yeah, doing slurry tests is your biggest... Yeah, just handing out Chimera samples might be a... it shouldn't be what stores do just to give you shit for free, because that's not going to be beneficial to anybody if you're, hey, Nectar just came out with this 12 pH top dress. Like, well, that's great. I have very alkaline water. My pH in my water is 9.5, and my pH in my soil is 7.3. So I should top dress with this right now? That sounds like a great idea. And then, you block everything.
Tech support. It burns! It burns!
Get released into my plants are yellow. Oh, yeah, you cook them.
Oh, jeez.
So I think the key there is slurry test. Find out what your starting pH is. Generally, most of these people are going to need to add it in bloom when they were complaining about their pH dropping so far mid-bloom. This is the cure. The key with Chimera is it will take a 5.7 and make it 6.6, 6.7 right now. I mean, it's got a tiny bit of dolomitic lime, and the dolomitic lime is instant pH up. I mean, it just raises the pH, it drops the magnesium load, that becomes soluble and waters away quickly, but the limestone that's added to Chimera will slowly dissolve over the rest of the cycle, so it'll keep your pH to where that high point was, but not let it go back down.
So when I'm doing everything right, and I'm, a ways in, and I start seeing my pH fall off, that's a good indication that I need the Chimera.
Yep.
Okay. And that...
or why do I take slurries, and what is it going to teach me? Well, for the last 4 times, it taught me I should have been using Chimera as week 1 of flower. And then once you do, and you're at the end, then you know that when I used a cup per 10 gallons, at the very end of my slurry number's coming out 6.8. Man, everything's perfect all the time. So documentation and writing everything down while testing is just going to give you more ammo down the road. So, damn it was on my...
What?
That one question came back to my head and I had an answer for it, and then you started talking again. Now it's gone again. Damn.
That's funny. No one's ever complained about that before. That I do that.
Foliar feeding.
Yeah.
All the way back to that question. So, one of those questions was, the foliar feeding and how to and when and all that, right?
Yeah.
The one thing with foliar feeding that I think is very important, if you have a mother and you do your own cloning, foliar feeding is like the weapon of choice for me as far as speed of clone ridding, health of clones after cutting, and my success rate. And the reason is, right about 10 days before you're about to take clones, you take the tops of that plant, you foliar feed them that amino acid, Athenas, the Poseidon, the Zoot. You give them that food. I even put a little Medusa in there because I'm trying to get a broad spectrum of food up into the foliage.
Okay.
I do it every day for 10 days. Then you take your cuttings from those tops that you've been feeding for 10 days. They now have a 10-day storage of nutrition. So as they go into being cut and they go into the cloner or however your cloning method is, normally the plants will start to wilt and yellow and start depleting themselves because there's no more food source that the roots have been cut off. So there's no way to feed them. Well, you've put all the storage into the storage houses in the leaves, so they stay green, they stay pert, they stay healthy while they're breaking down that material. And then as soon as they start to yellow, we see discoloration. Usually that's when we start to see the root mass starting to happen. So foliar feeding moms up to 10 days before cuttings will make your cutting game way faster and healthier. So it kept getting to that end and we sidetrack it, and I keep forgetting to say, hey,
Can you keep going with the cuttings too once you put them in the dirt?
Oh yeah, no. Foliar feeding cuttings is probably the best way to feed them because it's a meal, it's constant, it's whenever you want to, and it keeps them focusing on root development without flooding those little tiny root zones with nutrition.
Okay, so I cut off my clonings and they go into a cloner for a while, right, to make their roots? Is that what we're doing? And are we doing anything in there? They're just in the cloner getting...
Yeah, I mean, a little liquid kelp and amino acids never hurt in that as well because you're keeping them fed and you're giving them the amino acids to help develop roots. So,
and then I get them in the ground and I'm foliar feeding them there. Do you do anything? Do you water them? Do you do anything? Do you put any SLF? Do you put anything with the roots when they're fresh in? Like the first...
Oh yeah, I mean, mycorrhiza in there and water them in with a little SLF, maybe some, old name, came back. The Diamania, just like putting a little bit of that in there. Just something that's very mild, rich in vitamins, rich in aminos, and then SLF has the bacillus that protects, because the SLF bacteria will harbor around that root system and kind of create a guard and protect those brand new tiny roots from being jeopardized with something in the soil.
And then, I mean, so at this point, we're going to foliar feed on until we see flowers, right? I mean, so we're foliar feeding those cuttings from when they're not even cut yet all the way through with basically the same...
If you choose to, yeah. You'll see a more aggressively eating plant, that's for sure.
Okay, and so and when would you trail off on the Medusa? That would only be when you're in the cloner, or would you be doing that in the just?
I mean, if my plants are just really super green, I might get rid of Medusa or Athena, one or the other, just to take some of that nitrogen out of the game. But usually Medusa, if they're like super green and they don't need the foliar feeding of nitrogen anymore, I'll just drop that out because it's already going in the root zone anyway.
And just curious, why Medusa over Gaia? I know it's the veg formula, but what's the difference in there that makes...
Gaia's got a lot more bone meal and a little bit more limestone calcium in it, so it's not nearly as available as Medusa is. So Medusa has more of like the magnesium sulfate, so you're getting that magnesium dump in there, and it's mild, but it's enough to keep them pretty happy in the foliage all the way through.
It's kind of an IV for them when they can't eat through their roots with the Medusa a little bit, to give them a broad base of nutrition. Okay. I hope those were good questions. They sounded kind of dumb after I said them.
No, those are good questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the questions, I suppose.
Maybe you should be emailing us questions, Bob.
People were saying that. I was like, no, I don't know nothing. I'm just good at talking.
No, you're damn good on that level. It's like you're able to take some of these questions and then turn them into 3, which is nice. Because sometimes we look at some of the questions, we're like, well, that'll take 8 seconds to answer, and then you drag it out with some kind of nonsense and Bobisms that we have to try to help people understand what you're saying.
Scott making sense out of Bob. That's the show.
Yeah, right?
Yep. Well, all right. So what's going on with the new products? Is anything any closer to getting put on the shelves, or are you still fighting the government?
Well, I mean, a little bit of government, a little bit of manufacturing problems. People pretending like they can't produce what they're supposed to be producing. And, I mean, the whole world in this sense right now, or at least our industry, is just one ridiculous reality after another where, Calpril. So we use Calpril in a couple of our products as a base. That's the limestone. We ordered it last spring, truckload, and it was 60 cents a bag to ship. You know what it is this year to ship the same bag? The price went up 5%, minus the shipping, went up to $2.45 a bag.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, everything we've ordered in the past, we've ordered it with the idea that we always include the freight in it. And right now, the freight is, it goes up by the hour. I mean, when we quote people for freight right now, they said, okay, well, that quote's good for 24 hours. It used to be good for 2 weeks. If I got a quote to Midwest, it's a 2-week quote. I have 24 hours to pull the trigger on a quote now. And if you take 3 days, then I got to go get another quote, and then that quote will have definitely changed. So it's been a year that's really just making this whole industry kind of shake their head, scratch, and say, what is going on? I mean,
there's no cars on the road. I mean, months ago, the fuel prices are through the floor, and you would think a truck driver should be able to go fill up his tank and drive down the road easier than it would be now, but it does not appear that was the case.
Well, there's no logic behind any of what's happening. There's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There's just no logic. It doesn't make any sense. We can't find employees. We can't. I mean, this whole town is looking to hire. If everybody in the country wanted a job and came to Oregon, there would be a job for everybody in the country right now, but nobody wants the freaking job. So that's a kind of a hard thing. I mean, it's an ongoing gripe out on the West Coast. So, right now we're waiting on bone meal to make our one-shot. So we've gone through 2 years of one-shot already this season. We predicted that we'd go through twice as much as last year, so we made it twice as much as last year, and we've already sold out.
Oh my goodness.
So we went to go buy our new bone meal, which usually is 4 to 6 weeks out. So 4 to 6 weeks ago, we said, hey, this is what we need. Oh, okay, well, we'll let you know when we go into production.
What?
So it's like everything is just, it doesn't. And then it's, the excuses. And to me, I've been open since day one of this crap show all the way to today and never once missed an hour. And you know what? I've never once blamed any of this on what's going on in the world. Own your shit. Do your job and get your stuff out the door. Yeah. Nothing has happened to you. Cows didn't stop dying and people didn't stop eating hamburgers. You know what? McDonald's was allowed to stay open all this time. So there's bone meal. Not that we use their shit bone meal, but there's product out there. And the reality is nobody wants to work anymore, so it's horrifying.
Well, I'm sure we'll sort it all out. Glass half full, especially with two optimists like us.
Oh, sure, as long as the planet gets closer to the sun and we just bounce off it once or twice, that'll solve some problems.
That'll fix it up for us.
Just singe that side of the earth. Oh, well, we don't like them anyway.
All right.
They're doing that. So I guess we should try to, come up with some good questions for next week.
All right.
We kind of owe an extra one. Spend a minute.
Well, I'll do some shows where I ask for questions and I'll look deeply through the questions. What kind of questions are you surprised people don't ask?
I get them all, so it's
I feel like
there's not many that they ask pretty good broad spectrum questions. What I think we could do is maybe, have a guest on, and do an SLF show, or have a Microbly show or something. Just bring something else out there.
Yes,
just to kind of help some of these other product lines. Not help them; they're doing just fine.
Yeah.
But maybe have them speak to why we believe in their products so much and what we can do there.
Well, a lot of the stuff I got, I did a bunch of interviews way back with, the Green Grow guy, Mark and
Yep.
Colin and Scott Burke and all those guys. And a lot of the interest, Newton was fascinating, but a lot of the stuff wasn't so much just about their product knowledge, or product specific stuff, but their kind of philosophy of life and growing that was really interesting to get out there, you know, the life skills they kind of had, because a lot of these people we work with are not just exceptional products, they're made by exceptional people. And it's just nice to kind of...
Well, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've aligned ourselves not with just products that work with our... There's a lot of products that work well with Nectar.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people I don't like.
Yeah,
So,
having a good product doesn't get you over the bar into the Nectar fam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you're an exceptional person who when you look at the industry like this versus this, you know, I like these guys because these guys don't see, you know, like Mark from Green Grow, great product line, great inventor, great. I mean, him and his team have built pretty amazing microbes and pretty amazing things.
Yeah, and a process that's...
And a process, and it's, you know, they're very much like us. They put a lot into their products, so they don't make nearly the same money as the rest of the world. But with his product, you know, I got a lot of people that use his product and then use my Aphrodite's, my Herculean, and the Olympus Up to enhance his product. I've got a lot of people that use all my products and use his Earthshine, use his microbes, use his top dress. Sure. And it really comes down to, well, you know, we can sit there and tell these customers, hey, you should stop using that crap because it's not my brand. Or, oh, when you're doing that, hey, try this, because we've heard, you know, helping each other go further down the road makes us all look like we're good people, and we're not screwing each other just for the dollar. I mean, I'd much rather have Mark and Newton and Brett and Carl Gordon. I mean, having this team behind us at all times, supporting us in everything we do. That way, when we're all at trade shows or doing our things in the stores, when I see their product lines on the shelves, I'm like, oh, that's great. Oh, so what do you want to do here? And I'll start educating on their products. Yeah. Mark will educate people on my products. Newton will educate people on mine and Mark's products. So when you start working together with other companies and not all, you know, not shitting on each other just for each other's pocketbooks, it makes for a better community. And the growers we're looking for, they're looking for that. I mean, they're looking for owners who give a crap about the little gardeners out there. Because, I mean, we all have huge farms that work with our product. Oh, sure. There's huge farms that figure that out. But you know what? The next guy with a 4-lighter could be the next huge farm. And if he knows that I've taken care of him since the 1 light to 6 light to 50 lights to 2,000, I go with them because I've helped them grow all the way through. Sure. Yeah. And if not, then they found something else or they found greed. And you know what? If they found greed, I'm not really down with their program anyway. Thanks for your dollars as it went. And thanks for the support while you were here. But after you move along, move along. Yeah. And don't come back to me and say, hey, I really want you to make a product like them. And it's like, well, no, you've chosen that product line. Go with that. I want that product line. I'm not going to go and reinvent. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. So the next guy that comes out to you says, we have that new fertilizer technology. What, you God? Because
I think it actually froze up. I'm pretty sure he's not messing with me. And if he is, he's doing a heck of a job. So that's the show. I love you. Scott loves you. We'll see you next time. The OCG Fam Show. It's pretty good. It happens every day. It's the OCG Fam Show. See you tomorrow.